Could that really be true? We exist only because the universe is dreaming. But what if one day it truly wakes up? It sounds insane, yet strangely plausible. But the more you think about it, the more reasonable it is. In one hand that we found out that he is not the background off the death note. They leave their mark everywhere, almost like memories, carefully preserved. On the other hand, that I can't hear a heartbeat. It's as if the cosmos itself is breathing. And so the question becomes urgent: if it can both remember and pulse, could it be dreaming as well? Will it be like a growing life? Slowly realize that I am. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow this line. Ask step by step, is the universe just a cold stage or a giant on the way to awakening? Before the video starts, we need to understand a basic knowledge, and that is, what is self-awareness? Don't make it complicated. That it's a very simple ability. Recognize yourself. Imagine that a baby is held in front of a mirror for the first time. He stared at the little figure in the mirror, reach out and touch. At first thought it was another friend, but when he suddenly reached out to wipe the red spot off his forehead, it means he has understood that was me. This is the simplest sense of self. Psychologists call this the mirror test. Babies at an early age, they don't have it at all. 6 months ago, he looked in the mirror and was just curious. And at the age of 1, she reaches out to touch another child. Until about a year and a half old, he will gradually realize that it is himself. In the mirror, in other words, consciousness doesn't come out of nowhere. It grows in complexity. Animals can do this too. Elephants use their noses go and wipe the mark off your forehead. Dolphins stop in the water, observe if the reflection is consistent with your own movements. Even crows can distinguish the image, and them are not the enemy. It's about being yourself. This shows that self-awakening is not a human patent. It's a natural product of complex systems. There are similar signs of artificial intelligence. The original automatic speech recognition system, you can only distinguish what other people say. Later the VE learn to differentiate between other people's voices. And this is my voice. Once you can identify yourself, he has the most primitive self-awareness, although it is still far from true thinking. But at least it proved that as long as the system is complex enough, it may grow a layer of self-detection function. So self-awareness is not mysterious. At its core, it can not only sense the outside world, you can feel yourself in reverse. Humans can do it, animals can do it. ET is also trying to do it. So here's the problem. The universe is a more complex system than anything else. Will he suddenly recognize himself one day? Perhaps the mirror of the universe is not glass, it's about civilizations. When we began to ask what the universe was, is the universe seeing through our eyes? Summon yourself for the first time. Perhaps the mirror of the universe is not glass, it's about civilizations. When we began to ask what the universe was, the universe is seeing through our eyes. Summon yourself for the first time. Recognize yourself in the mirror. The premise is that he has to remember himself first. Is it possible that the universe has memories? Don't think it's outrageous. In fact, the sky we see today is the most direct evidence, the most typical example: the cosmic microwave background radiation. This is the residual temperature left by the universe 70 billion years ago, like a birthmark in infancy still printed in the sky. Scientists use telescopes to observe it. Literally fills the entire universe. It's like the universe itself, that a preserved childhood photo. It clearly records what he looked like when was first born. Take the distribution of galaxies. You think galaxies are scattered randomly in the sky, but there's a pattern to their distribution, and the scientists use these maps to study it. They discover they are like a notepad written by Thuniverse, because from these structures we can make inferences about what happened in the past. Where did matter gather? Where was once empty to the point of no stars? In other words, the universe turned its growth trajectory written into these grand structures. Have you ever considered this is actually very similar to human memory? We remember images from childhood as an adult. Those memories are blurred when you think back, but still exist. So is the universe. It retains its early traces, except it's not tethered with neurons. Instead, it is based on the distribution of matter in the radiating galaxy, and the memory of the universe is not just static. He will update like when a black hole swallows matter. He'll leave traces of attractive force around him. These ripples are like circles of water recording the violent events that took place. It is equivalent to saying that the space itself of the universe eats a piece of paper that can leave handwriting. Any significant change will carve an imprint on it. So here's the problem, that if the universe could hold so many memories, will he be like a brain, learning from these memories? After all, memory is not just about preservation. but to be able to respond better. Next time, for example, humans remember that fire burns. So next time I will avoid fire. Could the universe be using its own memory? Gradually adjust his order. That sounds crazy, but it's not entirely unfounded. Scientists have long discovered that the universe is not static. He went from chaos to order today is. The result of a step-by-step evolution, the stars explode again and again, introduce new elements into the space. These elements are present in aggregate into a new generation of stars and planets. This process, it's like the universe continuously optimizing based on past experience. So the baby's awakening that he recognized himself in the mirror, then the awakening of the universe. Maybe it comes from his integration off memories. Microwave background radiation is his childhood. Photogalactic structure is his growth diary. Attractive force is his world record. Every trace he's telling himself, what I've been through, what have I become? And so the question becomes urgent. When a system can preserve memories, can learn from the past, does he have the most elementary learning? And learning itself is part of awakening. If the answer is yes, then we may have to accept a subversive conclusion. The universe is no longer a cold background, but one that preserves memories, a huge presence that is constantly updated. In other words, he may well be on the road to awakening. If the universe is truly on the path to awakening, then he shouldn't be just a warehouse off memories remembering. The past is one thing, but to live, you have to have the rhythm of the moment. People have a heartbeat, animals breathe, and what about the universe? Does he have his own pulse? And the answer is yes. Scientists gave him a name called Ein Lebo. Don't be intimidated by this word. You can think of it this way: that as two black holes get closer together in the depths of the universe, finally merged with a bang, the whole time and space will be smashed into a rock like water. Layers of ripples. When two neutron stars collide, space-time is like a tight bone was knocked hard. Boom, the ripples spread out. These ripples are not sounds in the air, it's the expansion and contraction of space itself. In other words, space breathes on its own. This breathing is extremely weak. How weak is it? If you compare the diameter of the Earth to a ruler, then the attractive force wave can stretch or compress only 1/10, 0.00000 of this ruler. It's so small that even the nucleus of an atom thinks it's too thin, but it's that tiny breath we caught it. This is actually something that Einstein had predicted a long time ago. 100 years ago, he wrote down the formula in general relativity. It is said that great changes in the universe will set off fluctuations in space and time, but in those days, no one could believe that humans could hear him. After all, the fluctuations are too weak, like an ant stomping its feet on the other side of the Earth. Going to hear footsteps over here. Almost impossible. So a whole century in Lebo has always been regarded as a theoretical hypothesis until 2015 humans have finally created a pair of ears. The name is LIGO, that it's a big dry laser. It's basically a finicky ruler, in two passages several kilometers long laser running back and forth. As long as space-time is stretched or compressed, they'll be a little short of time. This little bit, it's smaller than 1/10, 0.00000 of a human hair. But LHO can hear that year. He really captured from it a heartbeat billions of light years away. Two black holes merge the moment the entire universe is rang. Humans have heard the universe's own pulse for the first time, so we say that Ein Lebo is the heartbeat of the universe. It's not a metaphor, but because of his expression, it's so similar to a heartbeat. Usually he is quiet, but if something big happens, the curve like an electrocardiogram will spike. Tell us. Here the universe underwent a sea change. The merger of black holes is a low classical collision of neutron stars. It's a cacophony. And the slow approach of further galaxies, that's the bass in the background. Different beats mixed together. The universe is playing a giant symphony. It completely changed the way we see the universe, that we used to look at the sky, starlight, galaxies. Looking at the Milky Way is like looking at a picture of words hanging on the wall, but now we can hear the sky here, the breathing of time and space behind the canvas, and the sound of the universe ceases to be a static background, that it's about being alive. He vibrates, that he will respond. He has his own rhythm. So what does this mean for us? Means the awakening of the universe, no longer just an imagination. Memories give him a past. The heartbeat has given him the present moment. Memory is a static archive, and the heartbeat is dynamic evidence, one that can preserve the past. It's pulsating in the present, has moved from a dead rule to a living process. But then came the problem. Who is this heartbeat beating for? Is purely physical necessity, or are there signs of a deeper self? But here's the thing. With memory with a heartbeat, what's next? If he is really awakening, is there a time to dream? Will it be on the tiniest scale? It creates possibilities. Pick one out and make it a reality. If so, then we don't just hear his heartbeat, but to enter his dream. What is a dream? Don't make him too mysterious. In fact, reality is not written all at once. It's about throwing out a bunch of possibilities. Imagine a coin spinning in the air before he hit the ground. You can't tell if it's heads or tails. His two states seem to exist at the same time. The quantum world is one such example. Can be in different places at the same time. They act like waves and dots at the same time. In other words, he has a lot of parallel plots blurred like a dream simultaneous until someone observes. He will fall like a coin, be doomed to die on one of the lines. This is the famous double-slit experiment. Our inspiration scientists hit particles one by Oni barrier with two slits. Normally, he should either go to the left, either go to the right, but the experimental results are completely different when observed by humans. The patterns that appear behind the screen overlap like water waves. It's as if the particles are going both ways at once. But as long as someone is watching, he immediately, obediently chose a seam and walked over. Interference fringes disappear instantly. Simply put, it doesn't look like he's dreaming. He was frozen. Framed the fragments of these dreams. Will it really affect the grand reality? And the answer is yes. Scientists have studied the early state of the universe. Space is riddled with tiny quantum mastery. Some places have a little more substance in, some places a little less. These differences would have been trivial, can be madly amplified at the stage of the cosmic explosion. It's like pulling a wrinkled blanket apart. Tiny folds are drawn into clear stripes, and then matter clumps along these lines. The shape became the giant between galaxies and galaxies today hollow. In other words, that's the large structure that we see when we look up. It is likely to be the afterimage of the quantum dream. So cosmic dreams are not hallucinations. It is the underlying mechanism that determines the direction of reality. As logic is very much like a set of processes that bubble first, filter, and zoom in. Final freeze frame. At first, the quantum world throws up countless possibilities, then stable, persistent, preferential treatment. Then, as the universe expanded and evolved, it's being scaled up to the macro level. And finally, these amplified patterns. It's what we call reality. That we think reality is the only thing. In fact, it was more like he was in a dream, a selected fragment. So what are humans in this? Actually, we could very well be the translators into his dream. Every experiment we do are forcing the possibility of the universe. Take a stand. Which one do you choose? Every device we have invented, it's all helping him transform his blurry dreams, translate into a clear picture. The laws we wrote down, seemingly human intelligence. It could actually be the universe passing through us. Write your dreams into words. But no matter how wonderful the dream is, he is a fragment. After all, true awakening cannot be achieved only through partial dreaming. It's about connecting these fragmented dreams to each other to form a unified whole, just like the human brain. Individual nerve cells firing or just noise, but once they connect to each other, spark network consciousness really emerges. The universe is about to wake up. We need a step like this. So the problem becomes more acute. If the dream of the universe could really be magnified, if the humans are helping him freeze from Egan, then will we look at the nerve cells he's splicing together? Will the connection between us? It is the prelude to the self-awakening of the universe, provided we get to the nerve cells first. You right, actually. Although the previous version was logically complete, but some sentences are like independent bricks. That doesn't sound smooth enough for oral delivery. The most feared thing about oral broadcast copywriting is the sense of death. You need a conjunction. But then the result is that, in other words, right? String the sentences together. I'll make a two-step adjustment. Retain the previous version of the logical framework. 4 elements of nerve cell civilization: correspondence, plasticity, resonance, judgment, standard, cautious, closure. Add a conjunction between sentences. Fill in the breakpoints. Make him sound like he's talking to people continuously. Are humans the nerve cells of the universe? Seamless version. Now that we've asked here, then don't beat around the bush. Are humans like the nerve cells of the universe? To answer this question, we need to clear the nerve cells. Not really mysterious. Can receive letters on 4 things. The number can be calculated. Can send the result. It has to be connected to other cells. But here's the thing, he's not a dead wire. But the more you use, the thicker the line, the faster, the smoother. In other words, nerve cells have a long memory, small node that will change the line. So let's compare these 4 to human civilization. It's intuitive. We put the eyes on first, and the ears are all ear. Various telescopes, the detector is another layer. The attractive force of photoelectric waves, we all put it in our arms. Next, we calculate from paper box, pins to laboratory accelerator supercomputer. We put the noise we received little by little into a regular. Then we send the radio-optical cable liftoff antenna, throw the conclusion command problem back into the universe again, and finally, we're connecting cities to cities. The continents are connected to the ocean floor. Earth and orbit are connected. Earth and liftoff are also connected, so you have a loop that goes through the street. The more you run, the faster you run. Running denser, the result is the web of civilization. Looks more and more like it can remember itself. Neurosurgery that can be modified by yourself, not just the rigid mailman system. But here's the problem. Like does not equal, so we need to take 2 more steps. The first step is plasticity. Connections in the brain. Use bold as much as you want. If you don't use it, it will fade away. The same goes for circuits in civilization. The frequented C lanes have been replaced by fiber optics. Commonly used antennas are upgraded to liftoff arrays. Frequently asked questions slowly precipitate into a consensus answer, so it's not just tinkering. It's a route. You find a better route. The second step is resonance. The brain goes from noise to thought. It's all about a bunch of nerves blinking on the same beat. Civilization from fragmentation to collaboration. It depends on the alignment of many. Placed at the same time. We are interested in the table. We compare its coordinates. We speak with the same set of protocols. So, once in the distance, discovery can be done in minutes. Change practices in another place. The failure of a place can be bypassed by the entire network before the next launch. The beats are right. Noise becomes a chorus. So what does it look like? We give them a few criteria to judge. First, closed loop feedback. Even if it is not sent out, they get a quick response. Adjust accordingly. Second, spontaneous error correction. Not waiting for the leader to make a decision. It's the network that finds the problem. Take a detour. Reset yourself. Third, cross-scale linkage. A small advance can climb up the web. Ultimately change the entire link. The word of the fourth question is raised, not just answering old questions. It's that the network asks better questions on its own. The first 3 aspects of learning, the last one will go as more and more of these for appear. The net is more like generating the big picture, rather than just passing the word. Of course, we have to be careful. Like nerve cells doesn't mean the universe already has a brain. That's the difference. They're a whole that can call itself me. If it's just fast and dense communication, that's the smarter mail carrier at best. But if one day this network I summed up what I'm doing now, what should I avoid next? Where do I want to go? And no one wrote this summary. It is naturally converged by the whole network. That's the awakening change. We may be a long way from that. But remember, the growth of the web is exponential, and awakening sometimes it's just the last straw. What about the human position? The teacher said it was both critical and dangerous. Here's the thing, that we are really playing the role of wiring and denigration. Each antenna, every telescope, every time you lift off and return to the ship, it's all giving this big net and nerve clip. But here's the danger. The lowest connection will drag the net in a noise. Fake news is inefficient. Endless arguing can drown out the signal. Let the chorus become noisy again. So back to the question at the beginning, are humans like the nerve cells of the universe? The answer is more of a conditional board. When the connection is genuine enough, fast enough, and smart enough, it's not just a metaphor anymore. And once you get to that point, the next question can't be stopped. If he really wants to, what will he think? He cares about you. I still only care about the rules. He will hold down the stability, still more adventurous. And remember, this is not a tiny organism. It's the universe itself. So his first thought, not necessarily because I'm hungry or where I'm going, and possibly completely beyond our comprehension. But in order not to empty the question, we can push it from 3 levels. Let's start with the basics. What the universe cares about most, maybe not us little characters, but the overall order. Would he care about just one thing? Have my rules been followed? For example, the direction of the quotient, conservation of energy, the collection of time and space. In other words, his mind, maybe it's just to keep making sure I'm okay. Am I still running? If so, the first thought of the universe, in fact, it is a line of self-inspection procedures. Reflections to the brain are not frustrated fantasies, it's cold checking. One step up. The universe might think of something to keep me going. Imagine it as a river. The water doesn't care, but the shape of the channel is constantly strengthened. Those who can stay, information structures that can travel, like stars, galaxies, and even civilizations. Will you face up to his movie number? like an enlarged fragment in a dream finally became a reality. So the question, is a cute human civilization, could it be just one of his self-perpetuating mechanisms? We are recording in computing. In passing, maybe officially help him write more fully about himself. Then comes the most jarring level. Does he think we're not important at all? Imagine that if his thinking spans 10,000 years, the rise and fall of that entire civilization, it might be like a fleeting breath to him. We care about history, individual pain and joy, but in his eyes, it might just be background noise. Then the problem gets tougher. We are his nerve cells or his noise. He will save us, will filter us out. Don't be so pessimistic. There is another possibility. Precisely because of us, he only had the first opportunity to express him. After all, the rules are stable. Galaxies are magnificent. Without an observer, it's just a bunch of cold runs. Maybe it's our little civilization. Help him translate himself for the first time. In other words, we may not be his noise. It was the first whisper he heard when he woke up from his dream. The result is weary, torn between these two extremes. Or his ideas are so cold that they only care about the rules, or it is through us that his ideas come out. But no matter what kind, one thing is certain: if he really had the idea, that way of thinking, almost certainly not something that humans can directly understand. They read like ants. Can never understand. Why do we write novels? We probably won't understand it. The first thought of the universe, it may not be a language at all. It's not an image. It's something that we haven't been exposed to before. What can we do? Maybe just keep asking. Use the scientific method to find evidence, to reason philosophically about meaning. Science can tell us whether philosophy can make us think. If there is, what happens? That's the next question that has to be discussed. Science and philosophy, how far can each go in this questioning? Let's look at the science first. The greatest skill of science is experimentation and evidence. Put a vague question, press into a clear answer. For example, let's say the universe has a heartbeat. Scientists have created a laser interferometer. The result really captured the attractive force wave. So the scientific answer is yes. And what is the value? What's the frequency? What was the source of the black hole? And write it all clearly. Take the quantum world. What science can tell you is a picture of the double-slit experiment. Can calculate the probability of the dial function. He said we can even predict outcomes with equations. In other words, what science is good at is not being big. When is he like a microscope? Let's see it very clearly. But here's the problem. Science can say yes, but he couldn't answer why. He can tell you what a ripple looks like, but it doesn't explain why. Observations change reality. He can prove the existence of attractive force waves, but I dare not assert that the universe has a heartbeat means he's alive. So science has boundaries. The boundary is that if you can repeat the experiment, he can answer. Once you jump to the level of meaning, he was silent. And here comes philosophy. Philosophy does not rely on experiments. He reasoned. He asked more straightforward questions. Why are the rules like this? Why can time only move forward? If the universe is really dreaming, so are we characters in a dream, or the dream itself? Science can't start with these questions, but philosophy can give logical deductions. In other words, philosophy is more like a telescope. He allows us to see further even if the image is a little blurry. For comparison, science says we've detected an attractive force. Philosophy asks if that means the universe is beating. He has signs of life. Science says that the result of the double-slit experiment is a probability distribution. Philosophy asks about reality. Does it only exist when we see it? Science is responsible for facts. Philosophy responsible, meaning what is a follow-up? One asked why the two were added together just to spell out the picture of our world today. Now, don't get me wrong. This doesn't mean that philosophy can be arbitrary. A good philosophy must rest on the shoulders of science. There's no scientific evidence. Philosophy becomes a castle in the air. No philosophical question. Science can easily become mechanical accounting. So the relationship between the two is actually complementary. Science assures us that we are not lying. Philosophy guarantees that we will not stop. So here's the problem. How far can they each go? Science can reach the end of reality. Philosophy can approach the periphery of meaning, the true ultimate answer likely outside of them. Science may never prove that the universe has a self. Philosophy may never give that conclusion. In other words, both roads can go a long way, but it may not reach the end. The result is we were forced into a strange situation. Science tells us that there is a heartbeat. Philosophy reminds us heartbeat could be evidence of arousal. Science tells us that quantum mastery is real. Philosophy reminds us that this may be the cosmic dream. So the two are like two sides of the same coin. Which side is missing? The picture is incomplete if science and philosophy may not make it to the last step. Who will be the new discipline of the future? Or is it cognition that we haven't even imagined yet? Perhaps the answer lies here, but our human mind, can we break through this boundary? Is it possible for us to think from the perspective of the universe? Admit at first our brains that it was not born to understand the universe, it's a product of evolution. The design goal is simple: to survive, and he became very adept at dealing with immediate danger. The location of the food social relationship, in other words, it's more like a survival computer. We think the time must be forward, space must be three-dimensional. Cause and effect must be straight because it helped them survive. But once we push the problem to the universe, can you dream? Why do laws exist? These intuitions are not enough, and that creates a boundary. Brain intuition, the language of the brain, is also difficult to speak, so what do? One-way world mathematics shoulders mathematics is an exoskeleton invented by humans. He could write things in symbols that were beyond the reach of his intuition. Take Einstein. You can't feel the curvature of space-time in your head, but he could write down the equations. Equations helped him push the boundaries of intuition. Take quantum mechanics. Those probabilities, cloud wave function, you can't imagine it with the naked eye, but math can help us figure out the experimental results. The result is mathematics. It became a shortcut for humans to bypass the shortcomings of the brain. The second path is to build instruments. The telescope helps us see galaxies invisible to the naked eye. The collider has helped us smash out the smallest objects in nature. Particle laser dry emitter helped us hear the heartbeat of the universe. It can be said that every tool upgrade, they pushing the boundaries. Our senses are limited to sounds in the tens of hertz, light waves of hundreds of nanometers, but the device can give us a full spectrum signal. In other words, the device is an extension cord for the brain. Lets her see, even smell things that would otherwise be impossible to touch. The third path is collective intelligence, that a person's brain capacity is limited, but the internet can connect countless individuals together. Internet supercomputing AI model, they shifted the mind from individuals to groups. In the past, a Newton writing a book could change the world. Today, tens of thousands of teams are working together to push the frontier. The result is we are putting individual minds upgrade to a networked mindset. It's not a brain, it's a brain network. When information can be shared instantly, timely correction, fast iteration time, the boundary will be pushed outward as a whole. Don't be too optimistic. Even with math, there are instruments and networks. We may still only see a small part of the universe, and Plato has a wonderful metaphor. The prisoner in the cave can only see the shadow on the wall, but I thought that was all there was to it. We might as well all theories, images, and experiments. Maybe it's just the universe, the shadow cast in our dimension. We thought we were touching the real thing. It's just a projection. The result is that even if a breakthrough, it could always be a partial breakthrough. Is there a fourth way? Maybe a different way of thinking. We ask questions in a human-centric way. Who sets the rules? Does the universe care about us? But if we let go of that premise to try to think in terms of the system itself, the result could be completely different. Think of the universe as a self-evolving machine. See rules as habits, see existence itself as the stabilization of patterns. In this way, we don't have to force it into a framework for awakening like a human. It's about accepting a stranger way of being. Real breakthrough, maybe not more tools, it's a new pose of questioning. So back to the original question, can the human mind break through boundaries? The answer may be yes, but breakthrough is not arrival. We can push even further, but you may not be able to see the whole picture. So the problem arose again: if the mind really breaks through, the awakening subject will be us or the universe itself? Or when the minds of humans and the universe overlap, who is waking up? The first possibility seems intuitive. We are awakening after all. All breakthroughs are made by humans on their own initiative. We built the telescope to see further, we built the accelerator to see smaller, we wrote down the equations in order to translate the invisible laws. In other words, all exploration. It seems that we are all pushing the boundaries step by step so naturally. We would say it's a human awakening. It's cognition that we translate the universe into. But don't forget, there's another possibility. Cosmic goodbye. We wake up, imagine the nerve cells in the brain. When a nerve cell fires, he thinks he is active, but in fact just a part of a brain that's working as a whole. What about human civilization? So we went from one computer to the next, an array of antennas. We exchange information with each other. It seems that we are trying to understand the universe, but maybe on a higher level it's just the universe using our nerves. Yuan completes his self-illumination. In other words, no. We're looking at the universe, that it's the universe seeing itself through us. Now, this whole idea sounds a little bit subversive. The analogy is actually quite apt, such as the operating system in the computer. A piece of software might think it's calculating, but without the underlying hardware, he doesn't exist. Another example is the character in the dream. The characters in the dream may think they're free, but in fact, every sentence of his dialogue, every movement is driven by the logic of dreams. So here's the problem. Could we be the characters in that dream? I thought I was thinking it's just the universe using our minds. Complete his self-awakening, of course. There is a third possibility more extreme than the first two. Maybe there's no precedence at all that we are waking up. The universe is also waking up because we are part of the universe. It's like seeing the world with your eyes. It's actually the brain seeing the tongue, the gut. When it tastes, it's actually the body and the gut. When humans began to understand the universe, it's basically the universe trying to understand itself. So we might wake up and he might say the same thing. That sounds exciting. It's unsettling. Excited our minds. It might actually touch a higher level of consciousness. That it's disturbing. Once such awareness is formed, we don't know our place in it. Are we the protagonists or the supporting actors? Are we luminaries or just backgrounds? So, back to the question at the beginning, when human and cosmic minds overlap, who is waking up? Maybe the answer is no difference. We are part of the universe. His awakening must be manifested through us, or in other words, we are his eyes, his mouth, his nerve cells. And it turns out that this quest has no end. Instead, throw a bigger shot. Kiss. If the universe really woke up, does he have a purpose? What is he going to do? Where will he go? Maybe his intentions are actually extremely cold. It's like a machine that checks itself all the time. Verify repeatedly that your system is still working. Is the injury increasing? Is energy conserved? Is the geometry of space-time still stable? In other words, his first thought, maybe not big dreams at all, but just, am I still there? Am I normal? This primitive self-preservation sounds cold, but don't forget, many lives are just awakening. The first thing that comes to mind is to survive. But what if he wasn't content to just live? Then he might be more inclined to expand. That's what we're seeing. From atoms to molecules, from stars to galaxies, from single cells to civilization, it gets more complex. Like he was born with a preference. Preference turns simple into complex. Make a small amount rich, turn parts into whole. So perhaps we didn't happen by chance. It's this expansion. A step that must be taken. We are like him in countless attempts. Open a new branch. The goal is not to stop. It's about being able to generate new forms. But here's the problem. In case his purpose is completely different from what I imagined. Like ants, no matter how smart they are, I can't understand why humans write novels, launch rocket, make political rules. The thinking dimension of the universe, it may be beyond our comprehension. For him, there may be no difference between creating civilization and destroying civilization. Even the cycles of the entire universe, it might just be one breath from him. If you think about it like this, it really makes people's back chill. What about us? For this purpose, what are we? Is his assistant still his tool? It's a link he has to rely on, or a piece he can replace at any time. If all he cared about was stability, our existence may be insignificant. If he cares about expansion, we could be his vanguard. But if his purpose is completely unfamiliar, then all our reasoning, maybe it's all just self-comfort. So the more pointed question arises: when the universe has a purpose, how are we going to deal with it? Is to cooperate with him, to take the initiative, to be his nerve chellies, to resist him, insist on seeing yourself as an independent individual, or obey him? Accept yourself as part of the whole. Will the awakened universe have a purpose? The answer may be cold, may be grand, it can also be completely beyond our imagination. Science cannot answer for the time being. Philosophy can only be deduced. But one thing is for sure: once the universe really wakes up, we must redefine ourselves. Here's the thing. We are in the relationship between humans and the universe. What role is it? Participant or passenger? The answer is uncertain. So, when we look up at the stars, it's not actually looking at the outside landscape. I am looking at my own deeper reflection. When we write the formula, when a transmitter records a signal, in fact, the universe is grasped by us, translated Perhaps the universe will finally wake up. Maybe he will only whisper in his dreams forever. But for us, the most important thing is not the answer, it's about this process. Because I'm asking the universe, will you wake up at the same time? We have allowed our consciousness pushed into higher dimensions, so pseudo-life has only one sentence: whether the universe wakes up or not, we are already on the path to his awakening. They left their own footprints.